So about halfway through the final group stage games in the World Cup, the third round of fixtures to confirm who qualifies in first and second, and obviously the third place teams, 8 of them coming through as well. Gives us a real different feel to previous World Cups, previous tournaments. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out in the remaining games. But we've already seen that we're about halfway through. We've seen about 6 of the groups been played over the previous evening. So I'm going to recap over those now, starting with Group A. Now, coming into this, Mexico had already won the group, but they was going up against the Czech side. They needed to win, and a win would have got them, depending on the other result, third or second, it would have got them into a position where a third place qualification was, at the very least, a third place qualification would have been very likely on 4 points. And, in the first half, they was tight, and they not much going on in that first half as they tried to sort of force the issue, but ultimately Mexico got the quality and they didn't need to win this game. They're playing with the pressure off as well, and I think that very much helped. And Mexico City, really, really tough place to play, and Mexico are looking seriously good. They're a quality team that's also got home fixtures for the first 2 knockout games as well. They could go really far in this tournament. I do believe. I'm going. I went for round of 16 finish for Mexico, and I could definitely see them going beyond that. I think it's possible. I think they'll get to at least that stage. Whether they go beyond that or not, it's going to be tough. But I think they're getting there, and I think it's quite likely. I think at that stage they meet England, and that's going to be a seriously hard game for us. Mexico City against Mexico, that's going to be a very, very hard game, and they've shown their quality even in the second half when they didn't have to win. The pressure was off them. They completely blitzed it in the second half, 3-0, as Czech finished bottom of the group and went out. The other game, though, was a bit of a story, and I didn't see this one coming personally. I would have thought South Korea would at least get a draw and get over the line. I thought they had more quality than South Africa. Well, I was wrong. South Africa, really, really impressive. First game didn't go their way. The red cards didn't really have a look in Mexico City. But in the second game, they fight back against Czech and keep themselves in the tournament. Slim chance in that last group game, and they did it. And it was like, because Czech lost, they was able to move above both teams and finish in second place. And South Africa have qualified in second place. Really, not a lot of people just saw that coming. Most people had the bottom of this group, myself included. They have proved people wrong. They've really, really stepped up. They were good in qualifying, but when it got to the big stage, would they have the experience? Would they have the quality? Would they have it in them? Well, clearly they do. It's not. They won't give anyone an easy. There won't be an easy game for anyone. And South Korea, I thought, they play good football and they got quality in that attack, but the defence is always going to be an issue. And again, that's where they come unstuck. If they didn't take their chances, it's always going to be an issue that they would let in a goal. And 1-0 back-to-back 1-0 defeats of the one against Mexico as well, where they were the second best in that. Good comeback against Czech, but they still conceded goals in that as well. As one offside, one that was obviously when Czech took the lead. But they come back, but could they still get through as a third place? I think the situation is they're going to have to wait. There's a table, and if they're in the top 8, they'll be through on the third place table. But it's going to be a bit. They needed a draw just to make sure. And South Africa, fair play to them. In a winner in the second half there, 63 minutes in. Group B, well, it was always realistically, it was always going to be Canada or Switzerland after the way the first fixtures went to top the group, playing each other. Always going to be a close game, I felt. Always going to be an interesting one there in Vancouver. Really nice stadium. Canada have been a fantastic host. The fans have been brilliant. They've been good as well, particularly against Qatar. Ruthless. Fought back well against Bosnia as well. And they showed some fight in this game as well, and what comes to that. Switzerland, though, they're so experienced, aren't they? I thought they'd top the group from the start, and despite a poor first game, very, very convincing against Bosnia in the end once they got going, and in this game, they were certainly good as well. First half was tight, started better for Switzerland. This is a game I watched, and Canada started to sort of grow into it a bit, but in the second half, they took charge. Switzerland, we see Vargas on the score sheet again, Manzambi on the score sheet again, top players, really, really good team. Switzerland have got together here, one of the best they've had, and we've seen them do really well in previous tournaments. Every tournament they seem to grow, every tournament they seem to be more and more recognised as one of the big nations now, and I think they are. They could cause a lot of the big teams problems. The way they play, they could cause a lot of teams problems. Got themselves 2-0 up, but Canada, they do show some fight. David gets the goal back 76 minutes in, and it makes the last sort of 10 to 15 minutes a real contest. Jesse Marsch divides his opinion a lot among pundits, among supporters particularly, and among the fans as well at Canada. A lot of them seem to like him, but there seems to be some controversy there. Obviously, he's an American managing the Canadian team, but I don't really think that comes into the criticism he has got too much, because obviously our manager's a German. You don't really think that's what the story behind that is. But I do I was never really a fan of him at club level. I was never convinced by him at Leeds. I never really kind of bought into him. But for what he's done with Canada, I've been impressed with him. I quite like him as the Canada manager. I think he's done well. I think he suits the role. I think he's I think he's shows the right amount of energy, right amount of passion, and I think he has done a good job there. And I think they might not have been particularly great. They've not really had much professional games to play. They've had a lot of friendlies that they've been hit and missing. But they were good at the previous Copa America. I think it's worth noting. And coming into this tournament, they look. They certainly. Most people would have had. A lot of people did have them as the second place team, being a host, and they got their first World Cup win. And at the end of the day, he's doing better than any other manager's ever done. The thing where he was getting a lot of criticism the other day is he was almost holding back a bit. He apparently didn't want to get players injured or whatever in that last 10 minutes, so he held players back. And they were sort of getting a bit criticised, thinking, if you can get the equaliser, you're top the group. But I think you do have to find the right balance of they're through to the knockout stage the first time. They want to have a realistic chance of winning there. A bit disappointed not to top the group, would have got that home advantage, but I still think Canada has got a chance to go a few rounds beyond. I think they've got some quality players in their team, and I think they've been good. Switzerland, though, never to be underestimated. We never really know how far they're going to go. They always potential there for them. The other game, though, I always thought Bosnia would get the win against Qatar. Both of them on the point going into that final game. Goal difference only separating and meant a win for either one, puts them up to 4, go through as a third place team. Bosnia did it. Overall, convincing. Qatar had more to say in this game than they did, obviously, against Canada, where they're completely outmatched. But Bosnia, do go into a 2-goal lead in that first half, and it was a very, very dominant start from what I could make out. They get one back before half time to make the second half interesting, but Bosnia are able to keep control and shut them out, and eventually get the third goal, which seals them their third place finish and the place in the knockouts for themselves. So massive fair play to them as well. They really, really are improving as a nation. Look how well they qualified. Look at how well they've done in this tournament so far. They competed with Switzerland for a while. So only come apart in that final 10 minutes when they went down to 10 men themselves. And in the first game, they had the better of the first half against Canada as well. So could they cause some teams problems? I definitely think they could. The other game, though, the next group, though, Group C, that's wrapped up now as well. Scotland now really, really staring down the barrel. They sit 8th right now in the qualifying table. They're like the lowest of the teams that could still get through. And I'll tell you what, they really are hanging by a thread here. They're going to be looking at these results from now to Sunday, really, really hoping that some of these results go their way because they need it. Like a couple of more wins for the other teams that are going for the third place positions. Ecuador's result last night was a disaster for them. It's looking unlikely now. Even if they didn't take an absolute hammering from Brazil, they could have kept the goal difference down and would have given themselves a realistic chance still. But they just got battered. They were so good in the qualifying, so good in the warm-up games. But I have to say, certain players have just gone missing. Every time there seems to be hype around Scotland, they're actually going to do well this time round. Something seems to go wrong. And even in that first game against Haiti, I know there's a better side. They didn't make the most of the chances. There's a deflected goal that got them in front there. At the time, I was saying, it doesn't matter. Everyone was saying, it doesn't matter, they got the win. And I was saying that. I was saying, it doesn't matter, they got the win. People were criticising, but I'm thinking, it doesn't matter, they got the win. That's what they needed. The first World Cup win. And that was a game they had to win as well. They had to win that game. The other two, it's always going to be a bit up in the air, but they had to win this game. Against Haiti, they did. And so giving them a lot, something to build on going into those next 2 games, but it's just not happened since they've been completely outmatched. Up against Morocco, their chances, they had controversial penalties that I don't think were penalties, but shouts that I don't think were penalties. But going into that last game against Brazil, keep the score down a bit, compete, 1-0 loss, 2-1 loss, whatever, 1-goal margin, would be looking a lot better right now. It's that goal difference. That's the real worry. The fact they took an absolute battering from Brazil in that last game there. The fact they wasn't convincing against Haiti, and I think the fact that since then they've not scored a goal, and since then they've been completely outplayed. They've barely even laid a finger on teams that were just clearly way better than them. That they was at the start, you think, could they maybe compete? Could they get something out of one of these games? That's how well they're playing. That's the players they have got in the team. They've got a lot of players playing at top level now, but it just didn't happen for them. And their chances are, the way it's looking, I'm thinking they're probably going to go out now. I can't see them hanging on to that third place ranking, the best third place ranking, to be honest. Brazil, though, in that first half, particularly with Ruthless Vinicius, he's back. They were right to call him up. I have to say, I was wrong. I was fairly critical of this decision. I said, but the Neymar one was one that really I still stand by, because he's not even playing. He's not fit to play. So why is he there ahead of João Pedro? That could be what the lack of that game changer off the bench. If they're going to use him off the bench, that's what they probably would have done. The lack of that for Brazil could be where they come unstuck against a bigger side. But what I will say is Vinicius Junior certainly did deserve his call up. Ancelotti got that one right, and a lot of people were, including myself, were wrong about that one. Vinicius is right to be there, and he's shown that, a goal in every game, and he's been fantastic as well. He's making everything happen for them, and individually he's been one of the standout players in Brazil, and that's what they are. They're very much more individuals than a team. I'm not saying it's not. We are starting to see some cohesion in that attack now, but there's teams that play better as a team, and I think that's what the worry will be, particularly as they go up against Japan, who were who were second in the next group in the round of 32. That could be a problem for Brazil. But the point is, they topped the group after the first game against Morocco. They've come back really well. 3-0 wins against Scotland and Haiti, completely outclassed Scotland. Cunha on the score sheet again in that second half. And as for the other game in that group, Haiti, they had a real go against Morocco. Actually, already out going into that last game against Morocco, but they prevented Morocco topping the group. And Morocco now go against the Dutch. That'll be a really good game as well. But they took the lead twice in that first half, but they hit back twice. Hakimi on the score sheet. Salbari again, he's looking very, very good. And in the second half, eventually, Morocco find a way to get their winning goals that they need. And get through in second. The goal difference all that separates them and Brazil. They were very, very close when they played each other in the 1-1 draw. Morocco, if anything, better team. So Morocco definitely got the potential. It's going to be a very, very tough game they've got coming up. But both of these two are going to be involved in a really, really interesting, really, really high profile, really good match, hopefully, in those round of 32s. Brazil against Japan, Netherlands against Morocco. They're going to be great games, I reckon. Group D, the US is already topped, Turkey were already out because of the head-to-head record. Neither one could be topped, even if there's a winner in Paraguay and Australia. And they didn't. Turkey had nothing to play for. Now the pressure's off. All of a sudden, the performance was there. I know the US were not, played a bit of a second-string side, and there was very much just resting players for that round of 16. No reason not to rest players for the next games coming up. When you think about it, you can't really blame them. When you think already topped the group, already gone through as the winner, no reason to be taking risks in that game, especially as they've had a few little minor problems with Pulisic and players like that and whatever in terms of injuries. But Turkey already out, been a terrible tournament, awful in those first two games where they had to get something from. But when the pressure was off, we saw a bit from them. Geller on the score sheet, Yilmaz as well. So the US take the lead early, but Turkey do find the way back into it, get 2-1 before half time. Second half, equaliser, it was finished well, ended well, not really much happening in between. I didn't see this game live, but that certainly was what it looking like. They get the equaliser US, and then Turkey get a last minute winner, and that's what would, on paper, really, really exciting game, but just meant absolutely nothing in terms of the context of the tournament. The other game in that group they did though, because obviously both of them have got themselves in a position, because they both beat Turkey, Paraguay and Australia, and now just cancelled each other out with a draw yesterday at 0-0. Neither team really went for it. 0-0 suited both teams. They're both happy with it by the looks of it. That's the impression I got there. And there's not really too much more I can say about that. To be honest, some chances, but very much both teams happy to draw there. I got the impression. In Group E, there's a bit more happening though. Of course, Ivory Coast were impressive in their win against Curacao. Curacao, fantastic this tournament. They've been unbelievable, the smallest ever nation in the tournament. In their World Cup debut, they've really, really made a name for themselves. In fact, they got the World Cup point as well against Ecuador. They've really done themselves proud. And they did themselves proud in this game as well. They had some chances. And they were competitive. They was definitely not outmatched by a really good Ivory Coast side at all, but Ivory Coast was able to get the win and get themselves that second place finish. Nicolas Pepe on the score sheet once in the first half, then again in the second half they find the breakthrough again, and from there they was always going to get the result and get through in second place. Germany though, they're still behind them. Germany top in the group, didn't need to do anything yesterday, and I think that was why it was seen as, even though Ecuador had been really underwhelming up till this point in the tournament, seen as a real opportunity for them. When it mattered, Ecuador, they really did turn up. Sane gets the goal early on, but then they do equalise Ecuador, and I caught the second half of this one, and when it was up until that sort of the second drinks break in the midway through the second half, it was sort of, they weren't really going for it enough, but they really did in the end, and they got themselves the goal 77 minutes in, and from there they was able to see the game out and get through as a third place team, and I think they will be through now as a third place team on 4 points. Really, really impressive from them. Turned it right around, I have to say. Group F, the final group that's been played at the moment. Now, Netherlands have held on to first place in this group. Very, very impressed with them. Them and Germany are two teams that I thought definitely had to be in that conversation for a potential winner. But now I would be much more confident that one of them actually could do it from what I've seen from the group stages from both. I know Germany yesterday lost, but they didn't need to do anything really. And I just think they feel like they've got a lot of good options in multiple positions. But Holland, seriously impressed with them as well. I mean, they are looking very, very good. Broby in particular really stood out this tournament. I think Gakpo is always performing in these tournaments. Somerville obviously had a very good game against Sweden. Really looks like he's finally finding some form. But this game has always been straightforward against the Tunisia side that, let's be real, been really, really poor this tournament. Manager sacked mid tournament as well. It's all completely falling apart. Yesterday, within 10 minutes, Dutch had 2 up, an own goal, and Broby on the score sheet again. They pull one back in the second half. Matchuri, one of the standouts for Tunisia, in the very, very, glim slot sites of, very, very few bright moments they've had this tournament. And then, of course, Van Hekken gets the third goal, and from there there's it's only going to be one winner. Very good against Japan, dominated the game in parts, 2-1 up, right up until towards the end as well. So very, very impressive there from them. And then you think in that second half completely wiped the floor with Sweden, and yesterday very, very convincing in the game. They needed to do something in to make sure they still top the group, but certainly very professional, certainly very convincing again. So they topped the group, and because Japan drew, there was nothing they could do about it. If they had scored enough goals, they would have got themselves through. But they could have got themselves through as the winner still potentially, but get themselves through in second, hold on to second. Suits both teams. Is Sweden probably going through in third place now, 4 points, and Japan 5 points, second place, going up against Brazil, a team that tactically I think they could cause real problems for. I'm really, really excited for that game. That one's going to be a really, really good one. But yesterday against Sweden, I can tell both teams happy not to lose one of them sort of games. Mahida does take the lead, but Alanga does hit back pretty quickly, and from there I think both teams sort of laid off each other a bit. No one really tried too hard, didn't want to let it slip, and end up losing the position that they had got themselves in, which was a good position. With Holland so far ahead, there's not really a chance that either one of them could get above them. So that's where it is at the moment. I'll have more reactions tomorrow coming out to the next set of games, and when the time comes for the round of 32, there'll be some more predictions. There'll be more England stuff coming as well, so look out for all of that. But yeah, this has been an enjoyable tournament. A lot happening in these final group stage games. It really does give it a new sort of feel about it. There being some third place teams to go through, it makes it a very different type of things we've seen previously. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this all finishes, and I'll see you again in the next one.